This is 7 Dooms for Sandpoint, Interlude 4, Sandpoint Stories, Lumi, Light of the Lost Coasts. The marsh swallows the world long before the cave shows itself. Reeds hiss in the wind as if warning intruders away. And the ground, soft, sucking, treacherous, shifts under every step, forcing the company into a cautious advance. The air hangs heavy with brine and rot, a wet metallic taste clinging to your tongue. Gulls wheel overhead in uneasy spirals, crying sharp notes that echo across the stagnant pools. The island is barely an island at all, just a swollen hump of earth rising from the mire, crowned with a tangle of mangroves that writhe like knuckled arthritic hands. And there, at its heart, the cave awaits. It should not be visible through the trees, yet it is. The opening gapes like a wound torn into the hillside, a long vertical slash where stone has sheared outward in jagged ribs. Cold vapors spill from within, crawling low across the mossy floor as though the darkness itself were breathing. No insects cross that boundary. They skirt it, spiral once, and dart away in frantic refusal. Mazga the Bold takes point, great axe slung low, boots sinking nearly to the calf in black water, her tusked jaw set with that particular brand of half-orc determination that looks suspiciously like irritation. "Place stinks of old magic," she mutters without turning. Thane, lean and sun-scarred, taps the muck ahead with a spear. "Wind's wrong. Pressure's wrong. Tide shouldn't be this high today." His voice stays low, almost as though he's afraid to draw the cave's attention. "If those Oldrew's really in there, well..." It's an unfinished sentence. It hangs in the air. Rash pads behind them. The Null steps nearly soundless despite the terrain. Their ears flick forward, nostrils widening as they breathe in the cold draft from the cave. "Old one sleeps lightly," Rash rumbles. "But he's awake. Hungry awake." Cleon and Nakantha move together, armor and stone in twin silhouettes. The champion rests her sword against her shoulder, calm as an anchored ship. Nakantha's half-petrified limbs grind softly with every motion, flecks of granite catching the dim, marsh-filtered light. "Sister," Nakantha murmurs, her voice like wind moving through stone. "The earth shivers here." "It should," her sister replies. "We stand before the den of a tyrant." And, as always, they all look to you. You, Syra, stand at the rear. The cold vapor curls past your boots like something alive. The others wait, expectant, trusting you to read the arcane charge humming faintly in the air. Mazga turns halfway, eyebrow raised. "Well, wizard? You're the one who'll sense if we're about to walk into a death trap." Thane gives a nervous snort. "Or if we should be running the other way." Rash tilts their head, amber eyes glinting. "Speak wisdom. Our ears hear." Cleon nods once. "What do you see, Syra?" Nakantha stares steady, unblinking, at you. What does the magic tell you? The marsh falls into a hush, as though the island itself is leaning closer to hear your answer. Please complete this word picture by describing your character, adding any additional details you would like to this party, and your response to them as they look to you for guidance.
Syra is scared. That is the thing that is most palatable. She is nervous. She is in over her head, she thinks. She thought it was brash and arrogant of Mazga to take up this job. Shit, well, she says. And we can see from her physique, she is lithe. She is somewhat short of stature. Her hair is jet black, cut short at about chin height, with bangs that fall down over her forehead. Her ears are like knives that stand tall and proud at the sides of her skull. She has a slender frame that she's standing tight, cross-armed. Her tall boots, thankfully, keeping out the muck and water of this briny grave they found themselves in. She looks around. She closes her eyes, these large, almond-shaped eyes. And she focuses, breathing in and out, trying her best to calm her beating heart and feel at the ley lines that pulse below her feet.
Syra, make an Arcana check.
That's going to be my first roll of the day is a natural 20. That's going to be a total of 38 on Arcana.
Excellent. Just check something here. Interesting. That beats the hardest of any of the lore checks for the particular creature you are hunting. You already knew, though, what you were after. You know that you are after a dragon. An old black dragon named Ozoldru. More specifically, you are looking to raid her lair. You've done a lot of research about dragons and black dragons in preparation, so that it wasn't a surprise that you would be trekking through this dark marsh. And you know to expect a foul lair, littered with corpses and plundered treasures and muck. But with that natural 20, and that total of 38, something's wrong. The magic you are feeling as you reach out along those ley lines that travel like sinewy vines and roots of all of these mangrove trees and marsh plants. They travel unwillingly into the soil here. They recoil as much as they can. And the power that you feel along those ley lines is more intense than you could ever have expected. Too intense. The dragon you are seeking is older and more powerful than your research indicated.
Her eyes are closed, her hand in a glove outstretched. And she's feeling, and she's furrowing her brow, squinting, twitching, flinching even at the presence of this stronger presence. Shit, she says. Something's not right. Are you sure they said that this dragon was young and fat? She says out to the group, directed at Mazga.
We knew that it wasn't a young dragon. Old, at best. Perhaps blind and senses dulled.
Something's wrong. Something's not right.
See? I told you we should turn back. I told you the tides were wrong. The winds were wrong. Thane is always quick to find the escape route. Mazga shuts him up with a look. Well, we knew what danger we were in when we came here. If we don't go in, you can't find what you're looking for.
Well, can't shake the feeling. This is not... Whatever. Just keep our heads up. Go in. Take as much of that gold as we can. Catch it by surprise, maybe.
You see, almost involuntarily, Thane licks his lips as if having in the doing his ranger duties of guiding you through the safest parts of these marshes and to these points, he's forgotten about the prize at the end. And when you mention gold, you can almost see the twinkle in his eyes. He licks his lips and says, yeah. And he gives you this look as he kind of pulls his, he wears sort of a long, almost like a leather duster. And he just kind of pulls it open a little bit. And you see that he's got 6 bags of holding attached to his belt. Like, this is what you do when you're raiding a dragon's lair. And you see that he's like, all right. And everybody seems to kind of ready themselves. And Mazga says, we go in then. And I think we see like a view of the camera just sort of holding. And as you continue moving towards this jagged scar in the side of this hill, it's sort of like a boom shot that moves up to watch all of you. And then we cut to a dark shot from inside as all of you move into this cave, into this lair. The air changes the moment you cross the threshold. It thickens and curdles. It's cool yet humid, clinging rot pressing against your skin like a damp hand, and every breath drags the taste of decay across your tongue. The darkness inside is not emptiness, but substance. A living thing that stretches from wall to wall, dense with moisture and the faint, oily shimmer of tainted magic. The ground squelches with every step. Layers of half-rotted vegetation and long-dead prey carpet the floor in a shifting mat of filth. Bones lie scattered throughout the muck, not as trophies, but as discarded scraps. Gnawed, pitted, dissolved at the edges by acid. The faint drip, drip, drip of moisture echoes from deeper in the cave. But each drip, each drop sizzles where it touches the ground, as though the rock itself has soured. Thin threads of corrupted water snake across the stone, forming shallow, viscous pools that glow faintly with a sickly, greenish sheen. These rivulets pulse with an unnatural rhythm, seeping from the walls, as though the cave itself were weeping poison. Every now and then bubbles rise from the sludge, popping with a reek that claws at the back of your throat. Above, twisted roots pierce the stone ceiling, hang low, swollen and blackened, as if the vegetation outside has grown sick from merely touching the dragon's presence. Serpents coil among these roots, small, pale, and blind, dropping occasionally into the muck with soft plops. Farther in, slick patches of mold and creeping slimes writhe slowly, as though stirred by your arrival. Treasure glitters here and there, but only the kind that can survive a dragon's steeped in acid. Gems half buried in filth, shards of colored glass, beads and baubles fused together by corrosion and grotesque ornaments. What looks like piles of gold and silver and platinum. Not individual coins, no, not any longer. Fused hunks of metal. Shattered remnants of softer treasure, wood, cloth, and leather lie melted into the floor, unrecognizable for what they once were. And then, amid the meager corroded remnants, something stands out. We see it at first reflected in your eyes, Syra. A single opal. Massive. Impossibly pristine. Rests atop a bed of slime-slick stone. Its surface shimmers with shifting fire of blues, greens, and a deep storm violet dancing across its heart. The gems shouldn't survive this place. Shouldn't shine in this darkness. Yet it glows with a quiet inner radiance, as though untouched by the dragon's corrupting presence. It looks less like plunder and more like a secret waiting to be claimed. Alzoldru's scent saturates the air. Sulfur, rot, and the sharp sting of acid. The oppressive aura of ancient cruelty hangs over everything, as though the dragon's hatred has seeped into the very stone. And deeper still, the cave breathes. Slow, heavy. A sound like a monstrous exhalation stirs a ripple across the nearest pool, and the darkness quivers, aware of your intrusion. What do you and your party do?
We have been idly picking up whatever treasures we can salvage on the way into this place. And Syra's eyes were caught on that beautiful, magical opal on the other side of the cave here. And then she'll take a few steps towards it. But I think that's when she notices the ripples in the water. She feels something behind her. I think that, I imagine that the group has scattered out a little bit in this section of the cave, trying to, kneeling down, sifting through the muck and the grime to find anything of use. Syra pauses, feeling this. Shit, something's not right. And she'll begin to call out to her companions to notify them that there's something.
You look around the room and you see that Thane has already apparently filled 2 of the bags of holding to their maximum capacity. taking anything that looks like it is even remotely of value, not even bothering to try to get any kind of filth off of it. But they're bags of holding, so they only look like they're slightly full as he reattaches them. And you see him try to push a big pile of platinum, and it just moves as one. The whole thing probably weighing close to 30 pounds as he wrestles it into this bag of holding. Mazga is also assisting with the treasure, maybe with a little less enthusiasm than Thane. More, she's got her axe at the ready as she looks at some of these slimes that are kind of shifting around, the serpents, seeing if they pose any threat. Rash looks at you and just, you see that now grin as they bare all their teeth.
You can taste it, can't you? The evil, the taint of the magic here.
Yeah, I can.
And the sisters, they're standing at the ready, not digging through treasure. And you see, as you start to look like you want to raise the alarm to them, that they are already at the ready. A tremor rolls through the lair. Subtle, then rising, then unmistakable. The slick pools quiver, pebbles skitter across the stone, and something colossal shifts in the dark, dragging the shadows with it. Ozuldru awakens. She does not stride, she does not crawl. She unfurls. A great coiling silhouette pulling itself free of the murk. Her scales gleam like wet obsidian, each one edged with the muted shimmer of oil and acid. Her wings scrape the stone, vast membranes unfolding with a slow, dreadful elegance, shedding curtains of slime. A ridge of serrated spines rises along her back like the crest of a breaking storm. And her eyes, twin lanterns of molten green gold, as if they themselves are twin pools of acid. They fix upon you with the intimacy of a hunter who has already chosen where your bones will lie. When she speaks, her voice is not loud. It is deep, a quiet, resonant certainty that leaves no room for hope.
So, the filth of the marsh brings offerings after all.
And you see rows upon rows of teeth as she smiles a wide draconic grin. She takes a step forward, talons sinking effortlessly into stone. Acid hisses from her teeth, trailing thin threads of vapor.
You crept boldly into my realm as though I slumber, as though age dulls my sight. But I know you, the bold, the desperate, the foolish. I am older than your maps. I am the rot beneath your cities. I am the fear in your nightmares. And you dare come for my treasures. Every thief believes they are the first. Come then. Show me your courage. It will make you taste all the more exquisite.
And this is where I would normally say roll for initiative. But since it's your entire party versus this, what you have now come to realize is an ancient black dragon. Easily 1,000 years old. As you watch this dragon coil and prepare for any number of possible attacks, I would like you to tell me how you react. And then this is your party, so I'd like you to kind of say what's sort of like what does your battle plan look like? You've probably planned for this eventuality, so take us into the start of this fight.
Thyra takes a few steps back in the puddles as she realizes that the dragon is now awake and set upon us. Shit. Everyone! And she can't really make out literally the next word as it is cut short by Rash the Gnoll, just having the loud roar of a battle cry as the Gnoll was just simply waiting for this moment to happen as they heft their massive, strangely crude maul club thing high up into the air with powerful arms. The Gnoll charges forward on their digitigrade legs, entering the fray in a massive, divinely fueled bloodlust. Mazga and Cleone take point as well, following in alongside the Gnoll. Mazga wielding her great axe and trying her best to sidestep through the muck and detritus of this nasty, corrupted cave. Clooney, the sword-wielding champion, she as well rushes up. Acantha, noticing that the three of these powerful warriors are trying to close the distance to enter the melee of the dragon. She is quick, despite the fact that she is half stone. She demonstrates her massive athleticism, running, skipping, and parkouring basically across like the stalagmites and rocks of this cave, trying to get at like the flank of this dragon. And you can see her forearms kind of emboldened by more stone, reinforcing like the knuckles and forearms of her fists, leaving Syra now at the back of her party, where it is that she belongs as the wizard of the group. And with some arcane gestures, her gloved hands begin to kind of glow in a purple, and she'll reach out and she'll, as if like you grab a curtain to pull it aside, with a gesture, she tears a rip through reality, opening a rift into some outer plane, and from it, this like wave of like dark mist pools out of it as she begins to wrap it around herself as the conjurer that she is, summoning power from the otherworldly dimensions as we begin our fray against this dragon.
I would like you to roll 1d20 for each of your companions. What I'm specifically looking for is just to see if any of them roll a nat 20.
Cool. All right. So this is going to be for Mazga the Bold. She gets a 3. Cleone, the champion, gets a 2. Acantha the monk will get a 17. Rash the Gnoll gets an 11. Thane the Ranger. He'll also be in the back, getting his bow out and ready. Though he was caught by surprise after like there's 2 bags of holding in his arms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was completely caught by this because he gets a natural 1, and then I get a 15. So no, none of us got a natural 20.
Okay. What would your opening attack be on this dragon?
The first thing that she would do is she actually would cloak herself in this mist to make herself like mostly transparent and blurred, and like making like these very disjointed kind of like clones of herself to make it harder for the dragon to see her. And then she would blast it with a massive blast of void energy conjured from the most hostile plane in the multiverse, the what do you call it, the negative energy plane. Actually using that like rift in the mortal world to blast out this like deeply necrotic anti-life ray against the to try to like just rend any matter and flesh apart from this dragon.
Is that would that be an attack roll, or is it a save?
It would be a fortitude saving throw.
What would
it would be the Grim Tendril spell.
What is your
DC 26?
DC 26. One second. For whatever reason, I think it's because you just threw a bunch of names out there. I keep wanting to mispronounce the dragon's name. Olzoldru. Olzoldru, as you... Okay. So, this is interesting. Without even rolling a die, Olzoldru's fortitude beats your DC.
Oh.
However, of course, it's a black dragon, so I'm rolling my completely black die. Olzoldru rolled a natural 1.
So that won't be a crit fail, it'll just be a normal fail.
So you are going to have a successful attack.
Yeah. So that'll be... how far can I heighten this? 1, 2, 3, up to 4. So that's that'll be 8d4 void and 4 persistent bleed damage. As like this like very powerful blast of void just like lashes. I mentioned like the rib section of Olzoldru, and normally, her scale and her might can shrug off any mortal wounds, but it's as if like the clock itself is running very fast, as like the scales in her skin begin to kind of shrivel up and petrify and coil inwards, and she will like unnaturally decay from this wound that begins to open up on her ribs.
So as this whole scene plays out, I imagine, as you described each of these party members going in for their attack, we sort of see them rushing in as the camera pulls back till it gets to you, as you pull in these tendrils, blurring yourself, and then you cast this spell and the camera shoots forward, and we see the surprise in Olzoldru's face as you manage to get a spell through. Olzoldru is first going to enrage. You see those molten acid looking eyes seem to brighten, and then you notice that there is a green glow in the throat. And I would like you to roll a d20 for Mazga, Cleone, and Thane. Just roll a d20 and we'll see where we end up.
Mazga's 18, Cleone gets a 12, Thane gets a 2. Poor Thane. He is in over his head. He's only like a level 4 ranger, probably.
So, Mazga and Cleone are going to catch half damage. Thane turns, still holding those bags of holding, and is going to catch the acid spray, which is a straight line, full in the chest. 17d6 of acid damage. And I specifically pulled 17 of my blackest, most vile dice. Like, most of them have skulls for pips. Oh my gosh, that is a lot. There's so many sixes.
There's like a hole that opens up as like his organs begin to dissolve. He's still clutching at the heavy bags of holding of treasure. I think that's finally, after his entire midsection dissolves, he begins to like crumple.
30, 40, 50, 60, 71 points of acid damage. That he takes straight to the chest. And yeah, you just see that. I think we almost see it from behind for a moment as acid is spraying to the sides. Cleone and Mazga have taken 35 points each of this splash damage from this. And then we see the back of that duster that Thane was wearing just start to go and then open up as the acid shoots straight at the camera, sort of splashing. And when we cut to a different angle, we just see those two bags of holding dissolving in pools of acid along with the gore that was Thane. And then let me see. I don't think she can do that, but she is going to lash. Nope. I think she's going to I think she's going to lash her tail out at Rash. And to give you a sense of how big Ozoldru is, you're facing this dragon whose bulk is still partially concealed in the shadows at the back of this cave, when the tail comes like way over here out of the side and lashes at Rash. And I'm going to... Okay, that is a 41 to hit. I think you hear something break as Rash gets hit and goes flying and collides with one of the side muck-covered walls. And as soon as they are... I think it's funny that as soon as I said they crash into the muck-covered wall, we got a bloop. But no sooner do they hit the ground than I believe, yeah, Kolo was... no, sorry, Rash. Wait, did I change the name or did you change the name?
Rash is the name of the null.
Oh no, sorry, I forgot. Nulls in Pathfinder are called Kolos.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rash is the cleric. So no sooner do they crash to the ground than they are already calling upon Lamashtu and healing their own wounds frantically. And I would like you to go ahead. Let's have another round. These are very loose, more cinematic rounds here. But let's go ahead and just roll d20s for obviously everybody but Thane. Just see if we get any more crits, and then we'll end on whatever your attack is going to be.
Cool. Mazga, the bold, she gets a 16. Cleone, resisting the acid because of her powerful armor, gets an 18. Acantha getting the flank will get a 7. Rash, after getting battered and bolstering herself with clerical magic, got 5. Thane is dead, and so Syra, myself, is a 2.
Okay. So no nat 20's in there, and I think you see a couple of the fighter and the champion. Their weapons are striking scale and doing nothing, but creating sparks. What attack, magic or otherwise, do you do at the end of this round?
Seeing her companions trying their best to like face against this dragon, she realizes the dragon's just way too powerful, and she will then, again, conjuring more, she like sidesteps, through the puddles, and she'll pull out another gash in reality, and conjure forward these like this rolling mist over the dragon, and it kind of like almost like hardens like foam, I guess, becoming heavy upon her scales and pulling her down. And she's going to cast, I think it's called slow. Let me make sure it's slow. It's the slow spell. Yeah, it's still called slow. Okay, cool. Yeah. To try to like debilitate it a bit. That's gonna be another fortitude save. DC 26.
Okay.
To try to restrict the dragon's movements and make it so that the melee combatants can have a bit of a chance to find somewhere more vital.
So the fortitude save is a 46.
That'll be a critical success.
And so I think as you
unaffected,
as you described it as this foam, you see the dragon seems to sort of lock up. And then you see cracks in this foam around it, and then this sort of iridescent green glow, and then your spell is ineffective. Ozoldru, her voice carries through this layer.
I will enjoy watching you cut each other down.
Roll a d20 for Cleone, please.
she'll get an 11.
That is not going to be enough to beat a DC 37. As Ozoldru casts Dominate on Cleone. And for the remainder of this fight, or at least unless you intervene or do something, you watch as Cleone turns her sword upon her sister. As Ozoldru is forcing her to fight your own party. And you see...
There's like an aura of green that's almost like puppeteering her like a marionette. And Syra, seeing this, shit, she says under her breath. It seems to be her favorite word. Her next course of action that she wants to do would be to do the same slow spell to debilitate Cleone, just to hold her back just a bit.
I think that because that was a 2-action thing, I do think that Ozoldru is going to make a bite action at Mazga. That's going to be a... This is insane. It's a 50 to hit.
That'll be a critical hit.
It's 17, 23 becomes 23, and then 2d6 of acid is 5. That becomes 28.
56.
It's 56, and she already took 35 points. She's
she'd still be up.
She's a fighter,
Yeah,
so
she'd
she's
still be up.
probably still up. But she's also, you see, as the dragon bites down, probably shoulder to hip, and doesn't rip and tear, but as she opens her mouth, you see acid spilling out of the many puncture wounds, because Mazga is going to take persistent acid damage as well. That is Azoldru's 3 actions. You wanted to try to slow
Cleone, just to take her out of the fight too. Take her out in a non-lethal fashion.
And I think with her being dominated, just check this. It depends on its will save. I'm gonna roll a d20 just to see. She gets an 8. I think you do succeed in slowing her down, and you get sort of a look of gratitude from was it Acantha? I think was her name?
Acantha, the sister.
Acantha.
Yeah.
And that let me just check this one. Oh no, is there a save on this? So you've been keeping to the back.
Mm-hmm.
Mazga,
Fighting for her
Cleone,
life inside the mob.
Acantha,
Mm-hmm.
they're all pretty relatively close. They're definitely within 20 feet.
Mm-hmm.
You hear the sound of wood bending, almost like a druidic magic forcing wood to grow rapidly. And you see above your head the writhing vines or roots of the mangrove trees from above as they shift and begin to all point down like this. And as Acantha's looking at you with gratitude, you see her go, oh, as Azoldru casts reverse gravity. And Mazga, Acantha, and Cleone are all going to be forced upward to the ceiling into essentially spikes. I think Mazga's, you're going to see going like this, and then just right through the face. Surprisingly, well, maybe not surprisingly, I think Acantha watches in horror as Cleone is pierced through the chest, but Acantha shatters the wooden spikes as her petrified form does force her up against the ceiling. With the shifting of gravity, I think it also causes a lot of the corpses and the debris and the muck it's like the floor literally starts to rain upward. And you see as some of the nearby detritus is pulled into this, you see that massive pearl fall off of its perch and kind of rolls, and it's a little odd shaped oblong as it sort of rolls awkwardly in a almost like a wobble a little bit closer to you.
She takes a moment glancing around. She sees the gored, dissolved form of Thane, maybe 40 paces from her. She looks up and sees the impaled Mazga, her company's leader, the one who wanted to take on this mission, this job, for the riches and glory of it. She sees the dead Cleone, the shattered Acantha. She sees Rash still alive somehow despite this. The Knoll Fortitude, like grabbed on. I imagine just Rash is like grabbed onto the tail of Ozoldru, and like despite it being like lashing about, the Knoll's still on and like has discarded the club, a long time ago, and just like bearing into it with teeth and claw, ripping, and probably has actually found a bit of purchase, pulling away like the black bile blood that drips from its fangs, and she like glances and realizes that there's no hope. And she glances at that treasure. She feels like the heft of her single bag of holding. And she'll make a quick gesture as she steps in the space between spaces, covering the last few distances, grabbing that massive pearlescent gem, stepping again over Thane's gory body, picking up what remains of like those two bag of holdings that he still had, and she's going to try to flee from here, as she is able to kind of step between spaces using the liminal doorway spell, which is kind of like a combination of like Misty Step and Dimension Door.
I would like you to make...
Her plan is to actually Dimension Door out of the cave, if possible, with Translocate as her final casting.
I would like you to make a Fortitude saving throw.
Uh-oh. It's going to be a 12 on the die for a total of 24.
That is a critical failure. DC versus a DC 37. Let me see what this says. Whoops, I'm looking at the wrong spell. That's weird. Let me open this one. New tab. Oh, they changed the name of it. Okay, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you critically failed. As you prepare to, sorry, what's the spell called? The Dimension Door, not Dimension Door?
Translocate.
Yes. As you grab this treasure and you are dissipating, a lance of green void magic shoots out at you and follows you through this translocate as you are hit with an execute spell, formerly called Finger of Death.
Mm-hmm.
And you immediately take 70 points of void damage.
Imagine like it catches her like in like the thigh, like right above the knee, as like she steps through, like that last, like the leg kind of hanging out through the portal still. It catches, and as she steps through the portal, she cries out in pain, tumbling down to the ground, into the muck and mud,
and what,
like scattering her plunder a few feet from her.
In addition to think of it like as you were stepping through, again, because just in the action of a scene like this, I love the sort of moving camera of Ozoldru casting this spell of execute. And I think for Ozoldru, that spell is simply to look at you and say, die. And the word seems to come out as this vapor, and we move with it. And what it does before it catches your leg, as we grow closer to you stepping through this dimension door, it skips through the tainted waters and twists, and you're hit not just with this void spell, You are hit in the wound that this spell creates. You are hit with tainted, ancient dragon tainted waters.
Septic water. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically you get sepsis. It's the fantasy. We have a long running joke for our D&D group with me and Dwight and my son and others, that where we play goblins, and it's and you get, if we bite somebody and they get sepsis. Also, what's sepsis? Because we're goblins, we don't know what sepsis is. But yeah, you get Pathfinder sepsis, and you. But what's the range on translocate? How far away do you teleport?
120 feet.
So you travel through that planar rift, or that rift, not really planar. And I think there's a moment where we see back in the marshes outside the cavern. And then we hear the roar of Ozoldru, and we hear the hyena-like cackling of Rash somewhere echoing in this cavern. And then the air just ripples and tears, and you tumble out. And you gather up what you can of what you've dropped. And I think with maybe a single look backwards, you disappear into the darkness. I would like you to tell us, after that scene, after you left the marsh on the island that is the lair of Ozoldru, the ancient black dragon, having taken the full brunt of this void spell from the dragon as you tried to escape with some treasure, picking up a very foul infection from the lair, what and or where do we find Syra next? Syra is hurting. Syra is in bad shape. We know that. I would like you to tell us where, the who, what, where, when, how, why of Syra.
We have a series of jump cuts as she limps out of the marsh. She leans up against a tree on the verge of passing out. She looks down at her leg, the foul wound beginning to go red from inflammation, the blood soaking through her pants. Her vision is blurred. She sees ahead the rowboat that the group took to get to this marsh island. She limps forward more, using more of these mangroves for support. Under her other arm, like just holding the massive opal and the 2 bags of holding that she's able to get. She falls more than gets into, falling into that rowboat, collapsing on her back as that little bit of a push is kind of what is enough to, with the tide coming in, have the boat slowly drift away from that island of death. She passes out for a little bit. She comes to as the boat bangs into something, kind of knocking, and she realizes she's at the shore. She's not sure how far up and down the shore she is, but she's definitely in the mainland now. She looks, bleary-eyed, confused, disoriented. She gets up. She sees the gulls flying overhead. She smells the brine, but she does not smell the death anymore. The sun shines through the canopy of the trees at this water's edge. She gets up, lifting herself off onto her with her elbows up, and she sees that her leg is not doing good. She twitches her toes on her left boot. They're fine. She tries to move her right boot. She can't move it at all. She gets up more. It stings. She grumbles to herself. She'll like fumble around with some of her bags, and she'll like realize that she pulls out a vial. It was like shattered. Her one good healing potion has like soaked through parts of her belongings, and she'll like rip some of the fabric off of her cape, off her cloaks, excuse me, and like try to like tie some rudimentary tourniquet, along with like breaking a bit of grabbing like a part of the oar, kind of like snapping part of it to give a bit of a splint for her leg, and she'll lift herself up, trying to ease herself onto her one good leg, and she'll hold that opal now up into the sun, seeing it in full now, in proper light, instead of some dingy cave, seeing its majesty, its curiousness. She shakes her head, thinking that she's traded her life, her leg, for this treasure. At least she's alive. She'll pocket this egg. Sorry, not this egg, this opal, excuse me.
I was about to say, I would like you in that moment to make I don't even know what it would be. Some kind of a lore check.
So my first misspeak. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I have like nature, arcana.
That'll work.
Cool. It's gonna be a 21. This egg-shaped opal, I'll say.
I think a 21 is enough to know that as you're looking at it, that a realization occurs to you. You're not 100% sure if in the throes of the pain that you are in, if you're hallucinating it or if you're actually seeing this for what it is. But as you hold it up to the sun, and this is a unique property because of its origin, not only does it just shimmer beyond belief, an incredibly majestic beauty of this pearlescent shell. As you hold it up and block the sun with it, you can actually see faintly through it. It is faintly translucent. And you can see the tiny silhouette of something inside it that shifts and moves. And I think for just a moment, as you pull it down from holding it up, realizing that maybe, just maybe, you traded your life for another. We see a single monarch butterfly lazily looping above your head and just kind of staying in the general vicinity as you then tuck away this treasure. Where do you go? What are you doing?
She limps up the jagged, steep beach, climbing up, pulling herself up through the grasses and reeds, and she sees up ahead that there is a road, just some dirt road, and she'll find some tree, and here she'll sit against the tree, leaning back, have a sip of her water skin. She tries to just get a sense of bearing. She knows that she has to be somewhere for there to be a road here. And maybe it's a few minutes, maybe it's a few hours as she drifts in and out. She'll hear the creaking and almost like this like rolling, kind of crushing, banging sound in the distance. She'll get up and she'll see a wagon being drawn by a single horse coming towards her in the distance along the road. And she'll get up, using the branches of the tree for support, and limp out to the road's edge. And she'll kind of like wave at whoever's driving this wagon.
I think that what you see is a driving this wagon, you see a woman who looks like she's probably in her early to mid 30s. She's got a slightly like suntanned complexion, but with the redness that goes with it of somebody who spends a lot of time outdoors. Dark hair. She wears rugged working clothes. The wagon that she drives is empty. She comes from where she's coming from, you don't know, but you see as the wagon draws closer, this woman looks at you. She's kind of, whoa. Hey there.
Hey.
Are you all right? You don't look so well.
What? Is there a town nearby?
Yeah, well, just up on over that hill. I'm just heading into Sandpoint to pick up some supplies.
And she'll like rummage through and hold up like 2 gold pieces, and they'll glint in this light.
I don't need your gold. Here. And she hops down and she rushes over to your side, and she will help you to the wagon and help you up. And she says, I can't promise you it's going to be a smooth ride.
I just need to get to a healer.
I know just the person. Do you have a name?
Syra, you?
Morella Trennel.
Thanks, Morella.
And she kind of shifts a couple things around. You see there's a couple bags of grain in the back, and there's a few like loose nails and a couple offcuts of wood, and some sawdust. She moves the bags of grain a little bit to give you a little something to prop up against. And she climbs back up onto the wagon and takes the reins and gets the horse back in motion. And it's probably a good 20-30 minute wagon ride in the town, where in this wagon, despite its rough nature, I imagine more from pain than exhaustion or anything else, you probably briefly pass out. And we see as the wagon is drawn up a curving path that leads around to a side entrance. And as you sort of are blinking your eyes, kind of waking up more from the stopping of the motion of the wagon, Morella is coming around the back of the wagon, And she just kind of says, just stay here a moment. I'm going to run in and get somebody. And looking up, you see that you're looking up at the edifice of a very large cathedral. And where Marilla has stopped this wagon, you're looking up at the stained glass depiction of the goddess Desna. After a few moments, you hear Marilla's voice again. She's right over here. Picked her up back a little ways on the road. She was like this when I found her. And you see a man, a bearded man who has just a little bit of gray starting to form in his beard. But he's dressed in the robes and vestments of a priest, and you can see that he wears the sigil of Desna as well. And he comes rushing up and looking you over and says, "Oh, my Desna, you do not look very, very well. What? I am Father Abstelar Xantus. Marilla here tells me you are called Syra."
Yeah, I'm Syra. Thank the gods.
Indeed. It is good that she brought you here. Will you be all right if we move you?
Yeah, we can. Calm me down, she says. And she tries to get up on her own. And
I think as you try to get up, Marilla almost effortlessly scoops you up into her arms and sort of cradle carries you. You see even Xantus looked like he was about to try to help, and then Marilla just picks you up. And okay, hurry this way, and leads you in through a side entrance, and through a couple hallways and into an office. You can see some bookshelves with scrolls and parchments and books, and there's a bed in this room. He says, over there, place her there. And Marilla gently lays you down on this bed and adjusts the pillow behind you. And
when Syra's put down onto the bed, laid down onto the bed, she'll look up at Marilla and she'll say, you sure don't want my coin?
I don't need your coin.
She'll say it with a bit of a smirk.
Just doing what I'd like to think anybody would have done in my place. You just get some rest. You are in good hands with the father here. And she turns and says to Xantus, make sure you get a good look at that leg. It did not look good, and I could feel through her cloak the heat coming off of it. I'll come by later before I leave town. I'm getting some supplies for the farm. And he says, thank you, Marilla. And she just kind of nods and she turns and leaves. And Xantus is going to come over to you, and he is going to move towards your leg, and then he's going to kind of stop and say, I would like to take a look at your wounds. Do I have your permission to? Thank you. And he starts to move your legs and he moving the leggings or whatever. You can see the wound, the blood soaked, but he can also, you see him kind of wrinkle his nose involuntarily. How long ago did you receive this wound?
I want to say today, but
Today?
I don't know how long I was passed out.
This wound
Last
looks...
night, maybe?
This wound looks like it's been left festering for months.
And she'll, like, lean up a little bit to, like, look down at it, and she'll, like, gag a little bit at just the sight of the necrotic horror.
It's
that
the
is her
smell,
thigh.
the smell as well. What you know is because of this, the contamination of the dragon's lair, that gangrene is already settling in. The sepsis, you can actually see. I'm going to call a yellow card on myself. I'm not going to go into too much gory description of the yellow light, not yellow card. I think that's a sports reference. But I'm not going to go into the specific description of the wound itself. But it's more importantly is the greenish black veins that are starting to spread from that wound all the way up. Xantus kind of looks as far as propriety allows him in this moment, up your thigh, and then he'll again look at you as if to say, may I? As he starts to look, he wants to untuck your shirts and look at your abdomen. And
I think she'll actually, like, do it herself, and, like,
you see,
she'll, like, roll things up for him.
again, involuntarily, you hear that sort of sucking of air through the teeth, and you see what he sees. The black-green vein spider webbing them. You can actually see them moving up your body.
Fuck, it got me good, she'll say.
What?
Like, looking up.
What did this to you?
Black Dragon. And because she's very knowledgeable in Arcana, I think she'll be able to recognize this easily. That fucker caught me with the execute spell. I'm surprised I'm alive right now.
You shouldn't be. Why? It is not my business to pry into why you were in an execute spell, you say?
Yeah.
That would have to be... That dragon would have to be at least 800 years old.
Yeah, we found out the hard way. And she'll, like, lean back into the pillow. Just, like, let out a long, exasperated sigh. Fuck. Is all she can say.
I think you see...
She takes in just the gravity of
I think
all the things that have occurred.
I think as you say that, there's this moment where Xantus just kind of looks down and looks at you and says, "Fuck, indeed." And then kind of...
Shit, I didn't mean to swear in church. Oh shit, I just did it again. Ah, fuck, I'm sorry.
I believe that the gods will forgive this in this situation. I'm going to do what I can for you. And I think probably for the next couple of hours, it's cuts of you. I think the first thing he does is he brews up some kind of alchemical tea to help you get some rest. And then we see these shots of Xantus pulling books, almost like a hyperlapse of Xantus at his desk, books seeming to disappear off the shelves and the stacks on his desk getting taller and taller as he's researching. And then he's going over to an alchemical table that he has in his study, and he's either mixing reagents or he's looking at things that he has, and he's attempting different things and trying his best to see what kind of treatment he can do for this. And the whole time this is happening, whether you kept it tucked away or it's set aside with your cloak and some other stuff. I think we just sort of see that what we now know to be an opalescent egg just sort of shift a little bit. What kind of fever dream does Syra have while asleep, while Xantus is attempting to heal her? And in this fever dream, I think something about it tells you that you may not survive the night. What does that look like for you?
She's at that beach in the boat still. She's being tossed about by the idle tides and the waves that rock that rowboat into the rocky, steep beach. She's not alone in this boat, however. As she leans up, there's another figure in the boat with her. The other figure is small, has her back to her. She'll hear a voice. Thanks for saving me, by the way. I don't know who you are, and, well, I don't think you know who I am either, but I just want to say I really appreciate that. And the figure will step up off of the boat. Listen, maybe I'll have the chance to save you sometime then. You know. And with that, the figure will push the boat, like with the back of her foot. And in the dim light, it is nighttime. You can see a small little tail. The boat gets pushed back out to face parallel to the beach, and the Syra will fall back asleep in the stream. And when she wakes up, that is when she wakes up to the smell of incense and candles of Father Xantus's infirmary.
So the first thing I would like you to do as you wake up is I want a fortitude saving throw.
Mm-hmm. That is going to be a total of 14.
You wake up feeling as though you've gotten no rest. You feel the weight of your body, almost as if it's trying to pull you down through the bed. Specifically, the weight in your leg. The irony of not being able to move your foot or wiggle your toes, but feeling the leaden weight that is this corrupted leg from this wound. And as you blink through the pain, you see Xantus sitting. He's moved his chair over close to where you're laying on the bed, and he has a small table next to him, and there's a few bottles and a couple things on there. And he's just sort of sitting there. It looks almost like he's sleeping. And then you hear the faint murmuring and you realize that Xantus is praying. And he is going to, as he prays, you don't know if you're seeing it or if you're hallucinating it. Well, you're seeing it regardless. You don't know if it's real or if you're hallucinating it. But you see moving up near the edges of the lantern light in this room, you see a monarch butterfly flitting about near the ceiling. And Xantus is going to, through his prayer, he's going to cast a spell. I would like you to make another fortitude saving throw. This time you will do so with a +2 from Xantus's spell. I'm bending the rules a little bit here. But basically, he's attempting to fight this corruption with restoration magic. He's attempting to fight the magic and the lair magic of an ancient black dragon with whatever powers he has at his disposal. So, on this next roll, what do you get with that +2 bonus?
To be 25 plus 2 is 27.
That is a critical success, which is going to give you 2 successes. You have 1 failure and 2 success. You feel some of the pain and burning receding from your chest and your abdomen. And if you look, and I imagine while you laid there, he kind of had your shirt sort of rolled and tucked under so you could keep an eye on it. You can see some of that corruption does seem to recede and leave your abdomen. Xantus seems to acknowledge this and know this without even opening his eyes. And he is going to attempt another restoration at a higher level. Oh, for some reason it's making my screen go haywire. Let's not do that. I already have that open. Where is it? Let's see. Okay. He's going to cast it a little bit higher as he prays a little more in depth, and he moves his hand out. I want you to make another fortitude saving throw. And this is going to be with a +3 circumstance bonus from Xantus's magic.
Okay, that is going to be... Oh, that's a big number. That's a total of 31.
Okay. So, Xantus, you actually begin to hear some of the words, and the word that just seems to keep repeating that you hear from his mumbling prayers is Desna. And looking to the ceiling, you see there are now a half a dozen monarch butterflies circling above. You feel more of the corruption leaving your stomach and your side, and your leg feels even heavier. It feels by the sheer weight alone as though it could hyperextend, breaking itself from the weight at the knee joint. And it's at this point that Xantus opens his eyes and says, "You are very strong, Sire. I was able
Thanks,
to..."
she says with a little bit of a smirk.
Well,
I do my best.
with your help, I was able to contain the corruption to your leg. And he looks over to the table, and he moves a linen cloth to the side, and he says, "There's only one thing that remains. And you see as he moves the linen cloth that there is a bone saw.
The way you said it sounded like the only good news I was going to get. As she has understood the implications.
You will lose your entire leg, and I need to take it now if you are to survive. But I will not do so unless you wish it to be.
She looks about. She thinks how much her lithe legs have gotten through her out of danger. She is a fast, quick half-elf woman. She's thought of all the times that she's ran from guards after some heist gone wrong. Sometimes she's ducked and dove away from arrows and spells. How many times she's ran over to her companions to cast a shield spell to save them. She thinks of all the memories that she has. Yeah, let's just do it. You sure it's gonna work?
I am.
Well, here goes nothing then.
We see Xantus reach over, and he first takes a bottle that has a sleeping draft in it. And he pours a heavier dose than one would typically and hands it to you. You're not going to want to be awake for this.
I've got elven blood. You're gonna have to give me more than that.
He looks questioningly at you for a moment, and then he pours the entire bottle into the cup. And just as a precaution, he says, bite down on this. And he hands you a leather-wrapped stick. And at that point, I think the camera starts to move away from what's happening in this bed and pans down for a moment to where this opalescent egg sits, and we see a little bit of shifting, and one of the butterflies comes down and alights on this. And then the camera continues moving out of the room and through the halls of the cathedral and up until we see centered in frame that stained glass window of Desna in the Desna portion of the cathedral. Now, for this last section, would Syra stay and convalesce at the cathedral for a little while, or would she want to take off immediately?
Well, she owes people money everywhere else. And then no one knows her here in Sandpoint, and she thinks maybe this can be a fresh start as she convalesces here. She knows this is not anywhere like Riddleport. The people here are good. They don't seem to eye your coin as your value. They seem to treat you with love and care. This warmth of this town keeps her here. She'll try to, when she can, when she has recovered from the amputation. She has a bit of business she wants to do in town. Try to pawn off whatever treasures she's able to grab from that dragon's hoard, and maybe use it to be able to retire here. Who knows? The weather's lovely here.
So I think what we see is, as you're thinking of all of this, is we see in the courtyard, the open courtyard with the standing stones, in the middle of the cathedral, we see a contraption, a chair that has a reinforced wooden frame and has wheels, handles on it that allow it to be pushed, parked in the grass and with the flowers in bloom in this central courtyard. We see Syra convalescing here, and I think we see the words 4 months later across the screen. And then from somewhere in the cathedral, I think we see this low camera shot of ground levels. The camera starts moving backwards, and then from a side room, we see a set of small feet. These feet are in they're human, barefoot, and we just see as they come charging through, and then suddenly we see Xantus at his desk in his office, and the door, which is open, suddenly this figure comes charging in and sort of skitters and almost bangs into the door frame. It's about a 10 or 11-year-old girl, human girl, dressed in not acolyte, but something similar to like an acolyte's vestments. Somebody who is a ward of the cathedral, or a in some. I like to think that the cathedral has some of the local families. Their children volunteer to help out at the cathedral, things like that. Regardless, this girl comes charging in, and Xantus lifts his head up, and he just says, with a big smile, "It's happening, isn't it?" And she just smiles and nods, and he goes, "Well, what are you waiting for? Go tell her. She's in the courtyard." And Xantus's office is close enough to the courtyard that you hear Xantus's voice. "Go tell her." And then you hear that pounding sound of barefoot on stone as this little girl comes running out into the courtyard and comes running up to you, and she puts her hands on the side of the wheelchair, and she looks up at you and says, "I've been watching it all morning. It's hatching."
Now?
"Yes. Shall I bring it to you?"
No. Where? No. And she like, I'll get there, she says, and she'll like wheelchair over, following behind the kid.
And she
refuses to be coddled.
She goes running through the halls, and she keeps forgetting that you're a little slow moving in this wheeled chair as she runs forward and then turns and looks back, and she's like, "Yeah, I decided to watch it all morning, and it was wiggling around a bunch, and then it stopped." And then she runs a little bit further, and she stops, and then I saw the first cracks appear, and you see Xantus comes out and just sort of pops out and starts walking along with you. And eventually you come around into a room that appears to have been dedicated for the purpose of this egg. It looks like it's one of the cathedral cells or bedrooms or whatever you want to call it. But there's essentially a manger, I guess, in the middle that has instead of straw in it, though, it's been filled with various like blankets and cushions. That's the word I was struggling with. Cushions. But this room is also very brightly lit, and there's a circle of lanterns that have been placed, turned up as bright as they could be turned, and placed really close to this egg. And we see, as Syra, you and Father Xantus and this young acolyte girl come into the room, we see the egg, and we see, and I would like you to take over narration at this point.
At first, there's like a little tap from the inside of the shell. And then, finally, a crack as the snout emerges. It is wet, like little like trails and goop of the yolk and the eggs, like slime, kind of clings to the half-hardened shells. It's not shells, half-hardened scales of this little hatchling creature. Another crack, and more of the head emerges, and there's like two little nubs at the top of its head, and the eyes are way too big, proportionally speaking, and the snout is very like flattened and very like big cheeks, and as the shell breaks apart further, coiled up in like this little like kind of in the fetal position is this small little reptilian creature about the size of a football in size, with the tail kind of curled up towards the belly, and it's blind. It can't really see that well as its head is just like rolling about, trying to take in its surroundings. You can see that the nostrils are like flaring a little bit as it smells.
The little girl immediately goes, "Ew! It's adorable!"
And then with that, the hatchling kind of like begins, and it feels part of like the shell, and you'll start to eat the eggshell, chewing on it and breaking it off little pieces and swallowing them, before like stretching out two little claws and then two little legs at its before kind of rolling onto its belly.
I think there's this point while this hatchling is naturally consuming the shell that we see for a moment Father Xantus's perspective. And he's standing sort of on the other side, closest to the egg. And you're seated in this wheeled chair. You can't quite see up and over into the shell. And Xantus looks down in the shell, and he sees that at the very bottom, on the inside of the shell, is a black ichor. And faint lines spiderwebbing up the inside of where it seems to have all settled at the bottom. And we see this little draconic creature's feet in this substance. Before it can consume the tainted shell, Xantus quickly grabs a blanket from nearby, something that one of the acolytes in the church, in the cathedral, probably always makes new, in fact, I imagine this is something in the town that anybody, any folk in town that have an aptitude for sewing, create squares that that are based around when they, various things, but that will be sewn together into a quilt for this child. Xantus takes another blanket, scoops up this little tiny thing, and kind of turns away, but only for a moment. But in that moment, he uses the first blanket to sort of quickly wipe any of this ichor off of its feet, and kind of just nonchalantly drops it as he takes the quilt and swaddles up the quilt that's much too large for this child right now, and turns and walks over to Syra and says, and he takes a look at the creature. Would you like to hold her?
And she'll like look and that's not a dragon. And she'll hold her hands out to collect the swaddle. And she'll unfold the blanket just a bit to like see what we're working with here, and with like a gentle finger kind of just like hold and caress like the cheek of this thing, and the little creature will, upon like having its cheek touch, will go and with a toothless mouth go and bite the finger and start like gnawing at it and like grab onto it with little claws. And there's like a little bit of wincing that Syra does. These claws are remarkably sharp. The claws of a newborn are have not been dulled by anything, and we'll kind of like have a bit of a warm heart. A little smile creeps across her face, and she'll look up to Xantus with kind of a look of pride and connection with Xantus. Xantus is someone that Syra's gone quite close to in the last few months, being here in Sandpoint. She's beautiful, she'll say, noting the pearlescent scales of this little creature.
She is. And you rescued her from that place of corruption. I believe, therefore, it should be you that gives her her name.
Well, I'm no mother, that's one thing. But I can give her my aunt's name. My aunt took care of me, and Lumira.
Lumira. That means light.
Yeah.
A fitting
kind of
name.
ironic given,
well, yeah.
Ironic given me, but
The irony is not lost on me.
And she'll hold that up and prop up the little infant hatchling, and kind of cradle it like underneath the shoulders and kind of give it a little look-see. And she'll see on the back of this hatchling the pearlescent scales give way to these jet black dark scales along the backside, between like the shoulders, down about the mid-back. And her look of warmth, her look of love, her look of pride falls as she sees her own reflection in these jet black scales. And she's brought back to moments, flashes in her mind of seeing her own reflection in the jet black scales of Olzuldru, the ancient black dragon in that cave, the smell of death, the smell of carnage.
Very faintly, as the tiny opalescent dragon creature before you yawns largely and lets out the tiniest little first roar. We hear in Syra's mind the echoing memory of Olzuldra's roar. And that is where we are going to end this interlude. That was very cool. We had a loose idea where we were going to go with it, and I like where this how this whole thing came out. I think, again, of the interludes we've done so far, I think you now, I'm not going to tell you who else, but you now, of all of the others, have rolled the most dice. And there were a lot of things that were at stake here that we didn't know if Syra was going to survive this. So now this creates this interesting situation or opportunity, I guess, in our world of Seven Dooms. Syra's out there somewhere. And you know the rule, no body, no death. We didn't see everybody die in Zuldra's lair. We only saw, 3 confirmed kills, I believe. So there's a couple that may or may not have survived. Thank you, Vi, for creating, being open to this. It was one of the things we pitched a couple ideas back and forth, and then I asked you to create a whole new character at a certain level range, and then I said, hey, I need you to create your party and give them names, and I didn't make you actually create like character sheets, but so that we could create this incredible backstory to see the origin that we've only hinted at in the main gameplay of Lumi. Yeah, I really like this. I like the familiarity of getting to see younger versions of certain characters and the possibilities that are now open before us within the grand story of the campaign. So I hope you enjoyed it.
I did.
And I tried to make it clear, just my style when it comes to things like if a character is going to live or die and there's a choice to be made, I want both the player and the character to make that choice, to have that agency. So that's where I wanted Syra to make the decision. You know, did she want to lose her leg, which you had already given me a green light for. But there was also the chance that she might not actually survive. It was a combination of Xanthus's magic. He does with the restoration spell, he has the ability to reduce the stage of one toxin. And he only had a couple attempts that he could do with that. And because of his level, he's level limited by, especially, you know, this is 13 years ago, 13 years ago. So that's why I treated it the way I did. It's kind of like, well, he's trying to reduce the toxin from an ancient dragon lair. It's going to bolster your fortitude checks. And with a couple of criticals in there, I was kind of doing the standard skill check rule, 3 successes before 3 failures. So yeah, I liked how this went overall. Very excited. I'm excited to see everybody's reaction. I imagine future Jake and possibly Vi and anybody else of us are watching along in the Sandpoint chat, Discord channel while this happens, but I can't wait to hear the other players, just like with all of these, the other players' responses to each of these interludes. And as of the time that you are watching this, next week is the last one. Velynia, still not revealing the title yet. You'll see that next Monday. But thank you to everybody who has joined us during this not rebroadcast, but this pre-recorded session. And thank you if you happen to have subscribed or resubbed or did any of those things. And if you are if you're watching with us, thank you. Or if you're somebody that likes to lurk quietly in the background, or maybe you're watching the VOD at a later time, know that we appreciate you, and we hope you enjoy these presentations as much as we enjoy playing these games. And of course, a huge thank you to you, Vi. I was so excited for this session, knowing what we were kind of getting into and knowing the type of player that you are. I knew this was going to be good. I just didn't know in what way. So thank you, Vi, as always. Without you, this would have been me talking to myself for a couple hours. With that, we are going to go ahead and end this interlude the same way we end every session. You can say it with me if you want.
MTD.
America.